Hey guys, it is Michelle, and since my last set of 3 book reviews, I have finished 3 additional books, so wanted to do my mini reviews for those. The first book is a physical book that was my digital TBR jar pick for the month, and that was Revoir, Crazy European Chick by Joe Schreiber. This book is about Perry. He is a high school student. He's under a lot of pressure. His parents are high achievers and want him to be a high achiever as well. So Joe Schreiber has done a pretty clever thing and started each chapter with an essay question for a college application, and then whatever that question is, the information in the chapter kind of could be an answer to that question. So it's kind of clever the way he worked that in. Your main character is Perry, like I said, and his family has decided to take on a foreign exchange student, and this is a girl from Lithuania. And he's kind of puzzled because she's not that great at school, and he's never really seen any foreign exchange students that weren't real good at school. He helps her out. She's kind of homely and quiet and shy, and just kind of comes home and doesn't do much at all. So he's very nice to her, but they just don't have a real relationship. Well, right before it's time for her to leave, he finds out that she has another identity, which is a private life as an assassin, basically. So, of course, you have to suspend disbelief on this one for a little while. There are some things that are not realistic at all, but it's such a fun ride, and it's so full of action, and Perry does not like to defy his father. His father really has his thumb on Perry, and so she kind of helps him break out of that and work on becoming his own person. This all happens in a very short amount of time, and it gets really crazy, but so much fun to read. Like I said, lots of action, and I did enjoy it and give it 3 stars on Goodreads. Next up, I read Lock-In, and this was a buddy read with Elena from Elena Reads Books, and I will put a link to her channel in the information bar. She's brilliant. She reads a ton, so I love to watch. She reads diversely, and so I like to get different recommendations from her. She reads a wide spectrum of genres, so love that about her because that's similar to myself. I was ready for the buddy read a couple days early. I knew I couldn't really finish anything else in that time, and so I was just kind of looking around at the reviews on Goodreads for Lock-In, and someone mentioned a prequel short story, and it's available for free on Tor.com, and it was brilliant. This is the first Scalzi I've ever read, but it turns out that sucker is 144 pages long, so I didn't realize a short story could be that long. I thought there were rules about these things. I don't know why I thought that. I don't guess that there are. I thought short stories had to be like 50 pages or less or something. I don't know where I ever got that idea. So in my mind, this is more like a novella, but whatever. It is a history of Hayden syndrome, which is the disease that causes lock-in, and it was just fascinating. It was kind of like reading little snippets from people who were involved. Kind of reminds me of watching like documentaries of things after they occur, like 9/11 documentaries after, like that were filmed 10 years after it happened, where you get this picture of how it unfolded, how people found out about it, how people reacted, and then what steps were taken to deal with the problem. And so it gets into politics behind the disease and how it affects different nations, especially the United States, and treatments, because there's no cure for Hayden's, and different approaches to that, and how there was conflict, and where do you send the funding. And I just found the whole thing completely fascinating. I gave the prequel 5 stars. So then I jumped into Lock-In, and as a buddy read, Elena is a great partner. So I didn't really know what to do. I'd never really done a really successful buddy read before, and she was like, well, the way she's done it in the past is just when you finish a section, you shoot off a Goodreads email to the person and you say chapters blah, 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 to blah, 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 or I'm up to page blah, 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 and these are my thoughts and reflections. And it was just brilliant. We were sending questions back and forth. Oh, do you think this? And, you wouldn't open anything until you had completed the chapters that they were talking about, so you didn't get spoiled. And it was just so much fun. And I just really appreciate that she buddy read that with me. And I will be looking forward to some more buddy reads if I can set those up in the future. But back to the novel Lock-In. So it is basically a detective story, and it is about a new detective that has come to the FBI unit that deals with Hayden's related cases. he himself has Haydens and interfaces through the world with a robotic humanoid device called a Threep, because the first person to be offered the chance to use one said, oh, it looks like C-3PO. So they were immediately nicknamed Threeps in the media. The government is wanting to cut a lot of the funding for Haydens. There are lots of companies that are like taking advantage and milking the system to earn money that they don't really need, and it's not necessarily all helping Haydens patients, but cutting the funding is definitely going to be inconvenient for a lot of Haydens patients. So another interesting thing is the main detective, the rookie, has Haydens himself, and so he interfaces through the world with a Threep, which is awesome if you're a detective, because you get to the crime scene and you can record video, you can do like digital mapping and imaging, and it's just so useful and so helpful. So I love that aspect of it. John Scalzi just put so much thought into this disease and what effect it would have on a society, and I just really respect him for that, and the writing was interesting. The novel just has this wonderful balance of action scenes and detective work and trying to figure out what's going on, and comedy in there as well. And there's no romance in this thing, so I really think this would appeal to a very wide audience. As I was reading it, it made me think of the Rush Hour movies. It was that level of entertainment where it was just well balanced and funny and lots of action and keeps you on your toes and keeps you engaged the entire time. So if you can't tell, I super enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. The characters were great. The world building was great. The pacing was amazing. And the characters were so diverse. That was just another bonus. So again, 5 stars, and it went on my favorite shelf. So I have a new favorite, and you can pretty much expect to see Lock In on my, probably my top 10 at the end of the year. Alright, and the third book I read is a children's-oriented picture book that tells the story of Malala Yousafzai. I think I got that right. Malala Yousafzai. And I'll be honest, I did not know much about her. I knew she'd been shot by the Taliban. I knew it had something to do with education. I knew she later won the Nobel Peace Prize. I knew, she's a very good role model for sticking up for education, but I really didn't know any of the backstory and what happened and how that worked. So this was a great way to learn about it. It's a fairly quick read. I think I read it in maybe half an hour. The artwork was great. It's targeted towards 9 to 11-year-olds, and as a 5th grade teacher, I mean, that is right up my alley. I love how she fought for her education. I really want to read this book at the beginning of every year to my students, because so many of them take education for granted or see it as a burden instead of like a right or a privilege, and I really think this will help shed some light on some of the students in that way, and I really think they'll connect with it, and really it will cause them to think about education and what kind of a blessing that they have to have a free education, and one that is pretty protected. So anyway, I ended up giving that book 5 stars as well. And thank you so much to NetGalley and Capstone for sending me that ARC. I don't believe the book comes out until September 1st, so we have a while to wait. And of course, that release date should change, but it's good, and I will be buying a physical copy. All right, so there you have it. 3 5-star ratings and 1 3-star rating. That's pretty good. Not too shabby. So thank you so much for watching, and happy reading.